This is sounds like Brendon. That's the road that you're putting on the AGS headquarters. Like deer something. No, but the name of the street. Oh yeah. Yes. Deer. Dark corners to where it's so like similar. Focus on. Yes. An hour to take staffing company. What are the things you? How are you different in every staffing? Good or bad? Both? Yeah, I'll see you back over by the drink.
Test 1 2 2 2 3 4 1 2 1 2 3 4 5 6.
Okay. Yeah.
Take an extra big bite now.
Absolutely. If you want to. We do a little thing here at these Human Cloud online staffing meetups. I hope this is going to be okay with Coca-Cola and so forth. Okay.
I will talk about Coca-Cola.
Okay. But just to give a little flavor of kind of who's here and why, we just have some folks introduce themselves and talk a little bit about where they're from and why they're here. And this is kind of an interesting group. Would that be okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
Go
right
you want me to
ahead.
go first?
Yes.
Okay. Hello. So I'm a co-founder of Wonolo, and we are based in San Francisco. We're about 9 months old. We just launched our service last December. And what we do is we help companies fill immediate, unpredictable jobs with qualified candidates who can do the job right now.
All right. Well, we're going to be hearing more about that later today. So
absolutely.
thank you for being a part of the panel today.
Thank you.
Hey, I'm Pramod, or Mode for short, and I'm with a company called MyStaffNow.com. I'm the founder, and we've been in business for about a year and a half. We started, our roots are from the small to medium-sized business space, and we found our first clients by just seeing demand that they needed for specific specialized knowledge type workers, and we started filling those spots for them and have since grown into a product. We are from Washington, D.C., if I didn't already say that. And we're happy to be here. And I think these meetups are going to turn into big conferences one day. So thank you, Andrew.
Well, I hope not. That's not the intention.
Hi,
These are the big conference guys.
and I'm Adam Pode. I'm Director of International Research for Staffing Industry Analysts based in London. Huge fan of Andrew's work and just very excited to see so many new businesses here.
Hey, thank you, Adam, and I'm so glad you're here tonight. Okay, great. Thanks.
I'm a ventriloquist.
Yes, right. Okay, well, here, would you mind introducing yourself and talking a little bit about who you are and why you're here? And don't divulge any...
This is an interview.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm Mark Robinson. I'm the Chief Executive Officer of a new company called WorkTap Inc. And we're an onboarding company for all workers, employees, and non-employees alike.
Okay, and are you local to the Bay Area?
We are local to the Bay Area. We're based out of Marin.
Okay, all right. And how about David? Thank you very much.
Hi there, and I'm Chief Sales Officer, co-founder of WorkTap as well, and I'm based in the Bay Area and have a lot of background in this industry of all
What
things.
brings you to this meetup?
Actually, kind of an interesting group and profile, to tell you the truth. It's really why we're interested in this. Is our background is in contingent workforce management, having built a VMS once upon a time and some other products. Seems like the right kind of group, right kind of people you got together in the room.
Glad to have you here. We've had, over the past few meetups, we've had a number of different people with VMS background in attendance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So once we heard online staffing and what was going on, technologies never moved quite as quickly in this space, but it's seeming to move a little quicker, right?
Great.
Huh?
Well, thank you. Okay. Great comments. Thanks. Okay.
Are we live already?
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Pradeep Chan. I'm the founder of On Contracting, and we're building a marketplace that is going to help contractors find contract jobs at Fortune 500 companies by pointing them to the right staffing agencies. Because we think staffing agencies are going to be in the market. Nobody's going to really disrupt them. It's only a matter of how do you get contractors to find the right agencies to work through.
Well, that's a very interesting motto. We need to talk some more.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Yeah, okay. Great. Okay. If there are seats to come forward a little bit, please do. But I guess we're pretty well up front. Can everyone hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah. So panelists, we're going to need to, enunciate today. Use your best rhetorical skills. And thank you everyone for coming. I would like to thank our hosts tonight, Sigma West, Josh. Thank you for hosting this meetup. This is the third meetup that we have held for the online staffing human cloud. It's kind of a mouthful. Need to abbreviate it. Human cloud, cloud labor platform meetup group, and the purpose of this meetup was really just to be able to bring together interested players in this online work intermediation space, platform space, and for us to learn more about what is going on and developments in that space. So the prior meetups focused more on the online, what I call the online work arrangement intermediation platform space, which is a pretty broad space today, ranging from kind of mainstay companies that many of us know, like Odesk and Elance, to a range of newer, more specialized and more differentiated companies. And as Josh and I were talking about earlier, the space can even be looked at more comprehensively to include companies like Uber, where Uber really is intermediating the use of some labor and some labor that is going to perform some type of service along with their asset. So it's become a very interesting and diverse space. Mature players today are approximately 8 years old, so it's still a young industry. I think when you look across all of the different types of platforms that are emerging, there may be between 150 and 200 platforms in existence today, and more seem to be getting born every quarter. The meetup today, we have decided to focus on younger companies, and so we have 5 of them lined up, and I think the purpose we'd like to accomplish is to really have them talk about their businesses from a number of different angles, and help us to understand what they do, how they're unique, and also what it's like to be a startup in this space today, in a relatively new type of business. So I'm going to ask the panel to, first of all, just to briefly introduce yourself and also your company, and then I'm going to come back around and we're going to go into a bit more depth about what you do. So maybe starting with Jason, if you could just say who you are and what company you're with, and yeah.
Sure. I'm Jason. I'm the founder of REV.com. We're a marketplace for remote labor focused on transcription and translation.
Great. Cool. Mattias.
Mattias, Guilotte. I'm Swedish. One of the 2 founders of Coworks. We're a premium marketplace for creatives, mainly target at marketing departments.
Okay. Branson.
Branson Bollinger with PRSONA, co-founder, along with my brother Brendon. We do online staffing for on-site work.
My name is Pramod, Raheja, Mode for short. My company is MyStaffNow.com. We're based in Washington, D.C., and we are focused on matching premium marketing talent to small and medium-sized businesses right now.
Hello, my name is Yong. I'm a co-founder of Wonolo, which stands for Work Now Locally. we help companies fill unpredictable, immediate jobs.
Okay, so we have, it's a pretty broad range of companies, and I think as we go through the next round here, we're going to see just how broad and diverse these different companies are. They're all within the category of providing an online electronic platform that intermediates a buyer of work and workers in some form. But where they do that, how they do it, what their models are very different. So I guess I'd like to start with the first question, which is to really talk more about, each of you to talk more about your business, when it got started, why, and talk more specifically about what your model is, your business model is, what markets you're addressing, how you're doing it, and where you are today. So I am going to ask Yong to start. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
I purposely sat here because I thought it was going to go that way.
That can happen.
Yeah. So we are about 3 months old. We launched in December, but the work got started back in August of last year. And the way we came to this Wonolo business was by accident. I think some executive at SAP SuccessFactors told me that anyone or a lot of people who get into HR business, go in by accident. I don't have any HR background or any experience in the setting, but what happened was that I was spending a lot of time with a large beverage company just to learn about their operations. And I was spending time with their drivers, merchandisers, and salespeople in the field. And then I noticed that one of the biggest problems that they faced was that there were tons of unpredictable situations happening on a daily basis. So a merchandiser would go into Safeway to restock shelves with beverages, and then that person would get a call from Target 20 miles away saying that their coolers are empty, and that person had to go and then restock coolers. And the company was spending a lot of money filling those immediate jobs. So they were trying to find the part-timer who could go in there and then restock the coolers, or paying this existing merchandiser to go in there and then restock coolers, and paying for gas mileage, overtime. And then in the meanwhile, all the scheduled jobs would not get done because this merchandiser was getting pulled away. So I said, okay, this company is spending millions of dollars on filling these immediate jobs. What if we can solve it? Then my co-founder and I started talking to other Fortune 500 companies, hospitality companies. They had huge issues with housekeeping. I'm sure you went to check in at one of the hotels, and then your rooms are not ready because their housekeepers didn't show up. You went to the restaurant on Friday night and you had to wait 1 hour because your server didn't show up, and then they were scrambling to find workers. So we said, why don't we solve it? So the way we tried to solve it was the following. We were fascinated by what was happening in sharing economy with Uber, as Andrew mentioned, and Lyft. So we said, okay, there are a lot of people who are looking for jobs, and there are a lot of jobs that are not getting unfilled, that are getting unfilled. So why don't we create almost like Uber-like app? So companies, whenever they need someone to come in and fill the job, they'll post the job, press the button, and the job notification would go out to all the people, qualified people, pre-vetted people who are available to do the job right now. And they would get notification and say, I get notification, and if I can do it for the next 4 hours, I would accept it, and the job would be mine. And I go to the job location, get the job done, and they get paid end of the day, and it solves problem for both the company and the worker who's looking for jobs. So that's what we decided to build, and then we launched in December with one customer who was having a real pain during the holiday season. They posted 10 jobs the night before, and every single job got filled immediately within seconds. and 10, what we call Wonoloers showed up at 7 a.m. in the morning, did a fantastic job. They posted another 10 jobs and got filled immediately, and they loved the service, and then they became a paying customer. So we have now, since then, in the past 3 months, increased, number of customers. We're now based in, available in San Francisco Bay Area. We tested it in Albuquerque market just to see if it worked in a completely different setting. So that's kind of where we are.
So Wonolo organizes workers who are deployed on a mobile basis to perform certain kinds of tasks.
Right.
And what kinds of tasks would those be?
So the tasks are, it's very specific. Tasks are either jobs that require very minimal on-the-job training. So Wonolo comes in, and then you have to explain the person, 5, 10, 15 minutes about what the job is going to be. Or it requires minimal previous training. So you attend onboarding session or orientation session to learn about the job, and then only those people who have gone through that training can accept those jobs. So the kind of jobs that we are focused on is that it doesn't matter whether I do it or Andrew, you do it, or you do it. The outcome is the same. We're not focused on jobs that, like for example, Pramod, your marketing job. If I were to come up with marketing strategy, it would be different from if Mode were to come up with it. That kind of job, is not something that we're focused on.
So what kind of customers do you serve? What is your relationship with those customers? And are you different from a TaskRabbit?
Yes. So right now, the majority of customers that we have are very much in the e-commerce, fulfillment, logistics, warehousing operations, and also merchandising. And we have customers that are also using us as event, staff, hospitality. For example, there was a launch event 3 weeks ago in San Francisco, and Sunday night, launch called us and said, they staffed up for event staffs, but they realized that they needed additional 5, 6 people. Can you make that happen? So we said, why don't you post it on Wonolo app? And they posted 5 jobs, and all got filled within seconds, and they were super happy.
But your customers are engaging you, and are engaging Wonolo, not the workers themselves, right?
Right. So it's super simple. You just download Wonolo app, and then you post job, and then submit, and then if you're a Wonoloer, you'll get notification, and you accept, and the job is yours. We're different from TaskRabbit for many different ways. TaskRabbit was born as peer-to-peer. So if I want someone to come in, build my IKEA furniture, or walk my dog, it was kind of born in that model. We were born as enterprise to companies to the crowdsource. So there are a lot of requirements that enterprise or companies need to make sure that when someone comes in, background check has been done, this person is covered under insurance, employment classification is all sorted out, and tax issues and etc. So we built it from kind of ground up to cater to that model, and then it's on demand. So TaskRabbit, you still have to kind of predict that on Friday night I'm going to go out with my wife, and someone has to walk my dog. So there's still planning. For us, as late as 1 hour, you can post a job and it happens.
So truly on demand. Yeah. Okay, great.
I'm just curious, so what's your business model? How do you charge?
So we charge based on service fee. So whenever Wonoloers does a job, Wonolo, so our platform, pays them, and then we charge customers on wage plus service fee. So we make money off of the service fee.
Mattias, would you like to go ahead? You have a very different model.
Yeah, sure.
An online work, very, very specific, and kind of a freelance marketplace model in some ways, but with curated workers. But I won't steal your thunder. So, when did you get started? And
so Coworks actually got started as another entity called Max a couple of years ago. And one of the first calls I had with Silicon Valley was actually with Josh, our host tonight. And even if it took us a year or so to figure it out, I think Josh was Well, he gave us some advice on the way, and we ended up doing a pivot. What we built was a global platform for work, but very, very tailored for research work. We call ourselves the Quora, but with money. What we found out after a while is that Quora with money is nice, but it's not a particularly big market. So we initiated a pivot roughly a little bit more than a year ago, and then we really looked at like what our own pain points were as business professionals and entrepreneurs. And my co-founder has a very traditional corporate finance and strategy background. He's been working and was really, he built a bunch of both real and virtual, on-site and virtual teams, and saw the pain of recruiting it from a cost perspective. I come from the marketing side and been part of a couple of internet startups, and had both a lot of on-site freelancers and hired people online pretty early. And what we both find was that this was a space taking off really rapidly, but still no one has managed to solve the conundrum of the problem with having like immense supply, but still having to spend so much time finding like the premium talent, the best ones in the marketplace. So what you gained in lower labor costs, you kind of got back as higher cost on your own time. So we started building Coworks with the intent to serve people like me, marketing professionals in small and mid-sized businesses, and serve them with like premium talent or experienced talent from the creative sector. We launched Coworks May 1st last year, and since then we grew to our first 1,500 clients, and yes, constantly iterating on the product to really try to figure out like how to serve our clients best.
So, in your case, a business may be looking for a marketing professional, and then would use Coworks to find that professional and actually engage that professional as a contractor?
Yeah, sorry, I should probably expand on that. So we have kind of in the back end, we have a payment and transaction platform that's the junior sibling of Odesk and Elas, but we do like global pay-in and payouts and manage taxes and liability and all that stuff.
So it's a global platform? It's
a global platform. So that's kind of separate from a lot of the pure marketplaces that just acts as intermediary. We actually, pay out tax money if it's required. The platform is invite only, so we work a lot with curating the marketplace and make sure that only people who are kind of dedicated creatives get into it. Right now we spend a lot of time actually saying no both to poor clients and poor freelancers, because we just don't see how we can meet their needs, and we actually usually send them to Odesk and Elas, and we use Odesk and Elas for a lot of our work ourselves actually.
So how do you what are the key ways in which Coworks, other than being vertically focused, differentiates itself from an Odesk or Elas?
On the back side of the system, we geared everything around social connections. You don't see much of that now, but
what does that mean?
This means that how we envision the future of matchmaking is that it's totally based on social referrals. There's a bunch a bunch of companies who've been successful with that within the traditional staffing space, like Jobbite, etc. And we don't want the client to have an experience where they get like an abundance of choice. We want them to have 2 or 3 matches every time they post a job. And ideally that should be like 3 persons that are matched to their network. So Andrew used his copywriter. You should use Anna because she's awesome. So that's kind of where we're aiming for. So that's, I guess, kind of makes us unique. There's not that many global transactions platform out there. A lot of like similar services, but not with that kind of backend.
Right. I think we have a Coworks user in the audience here, Mike Brewer. Is that true?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Find an awesome copywriter, I heard.
Pardon?
You tell the story.
Well, we actually, the first person I did Coworks with, I said, well, I'll try it. I filled out a little job description. It took me about 4 or 5 minutes or less, actually. And have to be somebody who's really good at doing writing skills. And we found a person that has worked at Oracle, worked at several startups. She's currently in Texas, and she's done a great job for us. So it's part-time. She does this on top of other clients that she has, so we're quite happy.
By the way, if there are questions for the panelists as they're talking, please just feel free.
Yeah, shoot.
So, well, Okay, so we have Wonolo, which is a platform that allows on-demand kind of special mini work assignment performance. We have Coworks, which is, and of course that's local to specific localities. And then we have Coworks, which is an global online platform vertically focused toward marketing professionals to perform their work online. So those are two very different types of models. And I don't know, maybe Jason, maybe we can have you talk about REV. I've always been really fascinated by the model that you've created.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, thanks for the invite. I think there's a pretty cool range of companies here. I haven't got to know everybody, but I don't think there's really any competition. I actually think that we're all doing somewhat different things, which reflects the breadth of models that can work.
Yes.
I think at the largest scale, there's this question of how can we use the internet to help people that have work get someone to do the work for them.
Right.
And there's many ways to go about that. I was an early employee of Odesk 10 years ago, so I've spent a lot of time thinking about this category. Right. And if I was to be sitting with you and say, hey, let's do a 2x2 of the industry. Yep. My two axes would be, is the work in person or remote, which I think is a very important difference. Uber's in person.
Yes.
Odesk is remote. Right. I think an important dimension, a different one would be on demand versus scheduled. Uber's on demand. I don't pick who it is. I just say, come get me. Right. And scheduled. Odesk is more scheduled. I have to pick the worker and say, are you available tomorrow or are you busy? Right. And I think if you do the 2x2, we find 4 quadrants, and there are very good use cases for each of those quadrants. And I'm not going to tell you that one's better than the other. REV has chosen, we are on-demand remote. Yes. That's sort of our shtick. I've never met Wonolo before, but I think what you do is awesome. I mean, I think it's super, super cool. I think TaskRabbit's a horrible business. I think what you do sounds like an awesome business.
Thank you.
And that model, so I'm a believer that any model that can go on demand will, right, because the customer effort is so much lower than having to go pick people from a list. And it doesn't mean on demand is best for everything. There are certain categories where on demand is not going to work. Right. On demand is best for low end categories. Okay, it's a reality. So jobs that pay $100 an hour are really going to be on demand. No one's going to hire an on demand lawyer, a good one, right? But you might hire an on demand busboy or an on demand transcriptionist.
If you desperately needed a lawyer, and there was a way to find a curated.
But if you pay $200 for an hour for a lawyer, you're not going to go on demand. You're going to pick the one you want. Yeah. Right. And I think graphic design at the high end and programming at the high end is the same. So so basically, so REV, that sort of industry view. Having been at Odesk and spent time with that model, my big takeaway, our takeaway, was that it's hard to hire people that are around the world, and it's hard to pick who's good. So we said, what if we could make it on demand? We said we could do that if we constrain the work to some narrow sectors. So REV provides a couple services. We provide translation, transcription, and captioning services.
So you're fairly vertically focused.
We're very vertically focused. The customer never meets the worker, never finds out the worker's name, doesn't need to know. Yes. So we curate our workforce, we guarantee quality, we guarantee deliverable, and so we have praises on the homepage in very big font. We don't do quotes, we don't do negotiation, we don't do sales, it's self-service.
So you present to your customers, you present a service offering. So for example, do a transcription by number of pages? Or
that's right, yeah. So if you had a 30-minute, if we recorded an audio of this conversation, it was 30 minutes, it would cost $30. Okay, $1 per minute, and you wouldn't know who did it, but we would guarantee that we do a good job.
So your customers don't come and try to find the transcriptionist; they purchase the service, and REV delivers it.
That's right. Yeah, and I think Uber is a good analogy. Uber's an on-demand service for getting around, and the model is somewhat. In Uber's case, you happen to find out who does it because you see them, but you don't really care. Right. It's their job to make sure that the person shows up, that the car doesn't smell bad, to get you there on time, that they're not an axe murderer, right? Yeah. Yeah. And so, Yeah, we have that same sort of kind of promise.
It's better if it's remote axe murderer.
Yeah, yes. Some people want the axe murderer, but you know that's a whole different thing. You've told me a number of interesting things about your platform. So you called yourself a marketplace, but you're really not just a marketplace. I mean, your platform supports the work and the workers in unique ways that the marketplace does not.
Well, yeah, I think when you think about a transaction platform, I think it's important to ask the question, how much value do you create from the matchmaking versus the ongoing relationship? And most platforms, if they're like a Craigslist job board style, create some amount of value from matchmaking and no value thereafter.
Yeah.
And so we believe that the best way to create a great business is to be as involved as possible in the long-term relationship and make the work itself better for both parties. And so in our case, we have built software to make the workers more productive.
What kinds of?
Well, actually, if I sort of break it down, okay, so what does the worker do? They have to find work and do work, right? And those are different things. So we have software for both, things that try to help people find work that's the right skill profile for them, that's available at this very moment, that's interesting to them, and pays enough to make them happy. And then as far as doing work, and this is a very vertical thing, if you're transcribing audio, we have to play audio and have you type it, and we have a bunch of tools to make it more productive. So our tools are very vertically specific. They wouldn't be relevant to, say, design. They're relevant to our verticals, but and the last thing I would add is, in addition to helping them find work and do the work, we've tried to build a community around that, so that the workers find some sense of kindred spirits, people that do the same things, have the same gripes, can sort of talk about the challenges of the work and complain about us when we screw up, and talk to people that are peers. And so we've tried to create what you might call a virtual water cooler that would help people sort of not be lonely, feel like other people have my challenges and have to solve these things as well. But big picture, I think in the long run that a marketplace ought to spend 80% of its effort not on the matchmaking, but on the ongoing long-term relationship.
Yeah, well, that's a very significant differentiator from a lot of platforms that are basically focused on matchmaking. I'm glad you talked about all of that, because I think that's fascinating. We have two more left to kind of bare your souls. I don't know, which of you, why don't you decide, or which one wants to go first? And once again, two very different kinds of cases here.
Yeah.
So,
well, like I said, I'm Branson Bollinger, co-founder of PRSONA, and we do online staffing for on-site work. We came from the staffing business. We actually work for Allegis Group. Most of you probably know it's one of the big staffing companies out there. And after years of learning that business, we felt like we had an idea on how to change it. So we wanted to take every process that a traditional staffing company goes through and move that into an online format. So that's what we've done. PRSONA does online staffing for on-site work, and we do it at a rate lower than traditional staffing companies because of that online automated format.
So you really function like a staffing company, like a staffing agency, but everything is online.
Right.
And there aren't people in the business, or very few. Is that right?
Right. We give the employer a self-serve approach to the entire process, where it's free for that employer until they find the person they want to hire, and then it's pay-as-you-go, only for hours worked. We give them unlimited postings at no charge, where they can attach skill tests to those postings. This restricts the flow of applicants down to those who've proven that they have the skills for the job. As recruiters, coming up as recruiters and salespeople, we saw where most of the time, even today still, recruiters are really just trusting words on a page. They're looking at a resume attachment, and now you have a LinkedIn job profile, but they're looking at that job history. They're asking a few key questions, and then they're making a judgment call. And I think we wanted to raise the bar of quality control there, and to give them something they hadn't had before. And we do it at the posting level, so at the same time it actually keeps the employer from being inundated with unqualified applicants.
So if I were a business who normally used a staffing firm, and then I switched to PRSONA, what differences would I find?
I think the first thing that comes to mind is a major reduction in price. Our markup rate is 35% if you're going to do 7 months, or it's 25% if you're going to do 7 months or longer, and less than that, it's 35%. But, you know, in all the years working for Tech Systems, a subsidiary of the Legis Group, I mean, 100% markup was pretty standard. You know, when the employer is ready to hire, we make it really simple for them to click and extend an offer and follow our steps. All parties get DocuSign paperwork. There are no hidden costs or inter-contract buyouts or subscription fees. Our minimum is just 1 month, and PRSONA becomes the employer of record, just like any other traditional staffing agency.
So you can actually provide companies with temporary workers, where you're the employer of record. You can provide a company with basically a recruiting service for permanent workers.
Right.
Is that right?
We do 1099 and direct hires, but we focus on W-2.
Okay, great. Well, yeah, question. Yeah,
so
great.
your target group and the talent you work with, I actually checked out the website, but I didn't get to that depth. So
I understand the question.
the question is, what talent are you focusing on? What clients?
Really office personnel, white collar workers. We have 100 tests that they can attach to the postings, like I said, and they range across IT, finance, accounting, administration, really any kind of office personnel. The only thing we're not actively pursuing is, because we don't insure for that, is a medical professional or a warehouse worker.
Yeah, so you told me at one point that office administrative is kind of your sweet spot, because these are kind of commodity positions, and to go to a kind of a traditional staffing firm, the cost structure is quite high, takes a while to get these people in place.
We can facilitate anything, but the truth is we employ pay-per-click methods in concert with our own internal recruiting efforts, and what seems to be the fastest movers is just staff accountants and administrators and assistants and stuff like that.
Cool. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Well, Pramod, you're kind of the youngest. I mean, even though you're the company that has kind of germinated the startup that you're launching now is a bit older. You're kind of the youngest startup here. So.
Yeah. So I guess a little bit of history. So I have another company where we own a kind of a chain of executive suites in the Washington D.C. area, and it's focused on virtual officing. So we have literally hundreds of clients that work with us, and so I'm literally talking to hundreds of businesses. And one of the things that came out of that experience as I was running those was the fact that these businesses, I think very similar to what you experienced, Mattias, was these SMBs are really having had a lot of pain points with finding good talent to do specialized tasks and ongoing work. So while Odesk and Elance have built a really robust, great marketplace, they were the pioneers in this space, and what ends up happening, or what I saw, was this sort of paradox of choice, that they would, just as you described, is you're spending so much time trying to find that person that at the end of the day, you're limiting your growth because you're putting so much time into it, and if you calculate what you're worth per hour, it doesn't really even out. So one of the things that we saw was high demand was marketing types, and when I went and did the research on all of the websites like Odesk and Elance and Freelancer, we saw that marketing professionals were number 2 right behind software engineering and development. And one of the things that we developed that we found was the biggest pain point was, how do you match? So how do you find that person you need quickly? So hence the name MyStaffNow and what a lot of us are trying to do in terms of on demand. And so with the help of a couple data scientists, we developed sort of a artificial intelligence algorithm that looks at what people write and extracts ideas, not just keywords, from that, so that you can even start matching up some of the soft skills and can figure out if somebody's collaborative or they're responsive. And what better segment than marketing and writing professionals to be able to do that, right? So we started out with writers and have expanded into more other marketing categories as well, designers. And we started the business probably a year and a half ago. It was funded actually. I actually went and sold before I even launched the website. And so the first checks that were deposited in the company were checks from people that said, "Oh, thanks for finding me a match," you know. And so the pain points I was very near and dear to me too, because I had those same pain points in my business. So I could see where these other business owners were coming from. Since then, we've gravitated to now where we're talking to enterprise, and we've realized that there are pain points in enterprise. So if you're an enterprise company, every part of your company is almost like a silo. And so in this part of the company, you do things a certain way. You may do a different way in another part of the company. And it's not consistent across the board of how you manage your independent professionals. And hence, there are compliance risks and other risks involved with that. So we've got a couple enterprise clients that we've done some matching for and now are penetrating to figure out these pain points. This industry to us is interesting. I was talking to some of the other guys before we got up here, and it's almost like there's a lot of choices in front of you where you can pivot and where you could go to. We're getting asked we're starting to see a lot of demand even for things that we never even thought we'd even address, like people with top secret clearance and things like that, that now I'm starting to see this hybridization of both offline and the online world, and it doesn't even matter what it will be. I think it'll all come together, and I think we start to see the beginnings of that. So that's where we are right now. We're knee-deep in product development as far as automating some of the stuff I described to you as well. Some of that already is automated, but most of it was initially pieced together with a whole bunch of sort of SaaS-based solutions initially for contracting, for the invoicing and all of that, and also the transactions. So we too, kind of like Mattias, we have created a curated marketplace and take a percentage of each transaction is what we've done so far, and that's where we are right now.
Are there any questions on what the panelists have talked about? Mike?
Yeah, I have a question for Wonolo.
Yes.
In terms of, I wasn't that clear on your business model, so it sounds to me like you qualify folks that can actually do certain tasks, like the beverage company, for example, they need things shipped over here or there. Is that correct? That you so they basically work for you?
So they're all independent contractors, so they're like freelancers, 1099 workers. So they are not employees of Wonolo, or they're not employees of the company that they're working for that day. They have the flexibility and freedom to choose whenever and wherever, or for whomever they want to work. So say you are a Wonoloer, so what's going to happen is that you sign up with Wonolo. We'll send you kind of the onboarding process, which includes background check, and if you want to work for certain companies or certain jobs, there may be certain training requirements where you come in for half an hour or watch videos or something. So once you go through the full onboarding process, which takes about, after background check is cleared, it's very quick. Then you have the access to the app, and you'll get job notifications whenever jobs are available nearby you. So you look at the job description, and you have 4 or 5 hours to kill, and the job will take 3 hours. And you feel like you can do the job, you accept it, and the job is yours. If you don't want it, you don't have to do anything. You just let it go. Someone else will pick up the job.
It's almost like a curated crowdsourcing population in many ways.
Yes.
So one last follow-up there. So the company, the enterprise company, then contracts directly with the 1099 folks?
No, we handle all of that. So, once I'm just gonna stay with the example. So if you like the job, you accept it, and then you'll go to the job location. So company X. And when you get there, you check in with the job requester and say, hey, I'm with Wonolo, I'm here to do your job. And once you're done, the requester will rate you based on 1 to 5 star rating. And once the requester rates you and then approves the job, then the payment gets processed. And that's all done through Wonolo. So we take care of all that, payment, taxes, all that stuff for the companies. So the only thing that the company has to do is post the job, and the rest of them happens, we take care of it.
One second, Jason.
Yeah, I just want to chime in. When Pramod used the phrase high-end or curated Odesk, and I think there's a huge opportunity to create labor marketplaces that are more curated. And Odesk and Elancer are now merged. They're companies that I know well, and in a perfect world, that one of those sites would be a perfect place to find great people, guaranteed every time, always available. But the reality is they're not. They stink in many, many ways. And I think there's huge opportunity for people to verticalize and curate. And by the way, Odesk knows
that seems to be a trend. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And that seems to be a trend that's occurring.
Odesk knows this. I'm sure knows this, and I'm sure they're working on it. But the problem is because they're totally horizontal, they have the problem of Craigslist or the problem of eBay, which is that when you sell everything, you can't sell anything that well. And so I think that if somebody wants to say, hey, I'm only going to do designers, or I'm only going to do programmers, or I'm only going to do writers, you can build a really great business that can go far beyond where they went. I mean, in the early days of Odesk, we would say it's the Wild West, because we had all kinds of crazy experiences with bad customers and bad workers.
It wasn't because you're a freelancer, you had like a category of cowboys or outlaws.
I wish it was
in addition to writers.
No. So I just think that the curated Odesk, I mean, there's so much space there. The challenge is just make sure you pick a category that's big enough, people will pay for it. But it's very easy to be better than Odesk because you focus on it and they don't.
I don't know if there are any comments in the crowd from anyone who is not from Odesk.
I'm trying to protect Odesk a little bit. We're also a customer of Odesk. We're also a customer of Elance. So we do use these different folks. If you haven't figured it out, we use a lot of virtual people. And you're right, the big challenge there is the curation. So we haven't had complete successes there. You have to kind of trial and error. So it's a little bit of trial and error. My entrepreneurial thought here for the group is if someone just focused on curation, not actually distribution, just curation as a service, that to me would be an just a wow business.
There are some companies that have started. ZipTask, for example, which uses humans to do the kind of curating of project personnel. But
yeah, and I can also add to that. And initially, when we started, we did a lot of like campaigns around like move your team from Odesk to Coworks and stuff like that. And it worked for some time. The 5 or 10% were not too happy. But what we actually found out over time is that people who are experienced with buying stuff from Elance and Odesk are actually awesome Coworks clients because they kind of know, they're experienced buyer, they know what kind of stuff they can get from Odesk that's like kick-ass and awesome. And they know what stuff they can't get from Odesk, and which is just too costly to find. It's see through like thousands of profiles. So that was kind of a something just learning along the way that a lot of the people on Coworks right now are good friends with Odesk and Elance, but they prefer to use Coworks for specialized marketing and creative tasks, and they can't find those people on Odesk.
To respond to your suggestion. If I thought there was a way to curate talent across all categories, I would for sure try to do it. I think there's, but I don't actually think it's possible unless the way so talk to any hiring manager in Silicon Valley. The way you pick a good programmer, the way you pick a good designer versus a good secretary versus a good busboy working in the back of a restaurant. I mean, they're really different. And I heard someone use the phrase earlier this week, end-to-end marketplace. And I think the new trend is an end-to-end marketplaces. Look at what Airbnb is doing. Airbnb recently hired somebody who was an executive at some boutique hotel chain to figure out how do they instill better habits on making guests feel like it's a boutique hotel, right? So they're going super, super deep in every aspect of the customer experience. And I think that they say Uber is doing everything they can to make sure you get a good ride, and HomeJoy is doing everything that you can to make sure your apartment gets clean. I just think that if you want to do quality, you have to really verticalize. I don't see any other way. If there was, somebody would have done it. And the other thing I would add is that I sort of say, maybe tongue in cheek, that you can compete with Odesk or Elance these ways. Well, they know this too, and they're going to come after it. And so what they have is a huge advantage in volume. And network effects is a very powerful thing. So I expect that once they work through the merger, I bet you that they're going to curate around their biggest categories, probably programming the other ones. So they're going to come back at this problem. And so it's sort of racing its time to curate more than they're going to be able to when they come in.
Or where there may be some advantage in some segment that.
Build an advantage why you can't.
And they were actually already doing that.
They're already doing that program.
Yeah, I know they have. I have friends who work with them who are very experienced, and they have been invited to join some pilot programs for like, I don't know what the category is called, but they are given much more like they getting better benefits, and the clients get like a money back guarantee and stuff like that, because like this guy or girl delivered like 100 projects with 100% satisfaction before, and then obviously OLANs can take a much bigger risk in the next transaction.
Well, I mean, and that's great. That solves the problem. I mean, like, think of the problem, the Wonolo solving, which is that you want to make sure you can say, give me 5 busboys or 5 people like tomorrow, and they need to be good. They don't want to worry about if they're good or not. So the guaranteed aspect is very powerful.
Yeah. Jesse from Ignite, do you still have a question?
Yeah, sure. So I kind of had 2 questions. One, I'm curious, during the onboarding process for your workers, do you find that people leave before they finish the onboarding process in general? And then my other question is, in terms of people coming back, like your enterprises, how often do you have those repeat customers? Like, how often do the same people come back that need translation help or that kind of stuff?
So, yeah, I guess it might vary across the different models.
Well,
but,
very
it sounds
quick
like
answer. Lots of people drop out. So on the worker side, many drop out during the process because we don't pay them until they're doing work. And so we're working aggressively internally to improve our yield to both people that want to get in. Well, there's people that want to get in, people that we admit, which is a fraction of those, and then people of those that are successful. We have drop off at both steps, and we're trying to improve that because we don't pay them until they do work.
Have you figured out why?
It's a lot of little things. It's not one big thing. It's 10 different causes. On the customer side, yeah, we have repeat usage that's pretty good, and we proactively study it, and we focus on seeing where people repeat the most and investing more there.
Anyone else on customer continuity? I mean, you're all kind of young, so it's hard to kind of make a judgment on
I
it.
was curious with you, so with the onboarding, you said it's pretty quick, but then sometimes they need to come in and do something, so that's specific to obviously having it here, so when you scale, you would have to have that
Right. So that one's very customer specific. So in normal cases, you don't have to go do training at all. But say you want to accept a job with a specific customer, then that customer will require that you have gone through that training or attended the session. Rare cases, but some Fortune 500 type companies would require that because they have very specific way of doing it. So specific way of restocking coolers or making beds at hotels. So in that cases, it's required. But in most other cases, the jobs are you go in and then the supervisor will tell you, hey, do X, Y, Z, and that's all the training that's required. And I guess
so you guys don't do any onboarding before?
Onboarding would be background check, and then we really believe that the human touch is important. So we call them, walk them through what Wonolo is about, what to do when they first accept the job, what happens if they cancel the job, all that stuff we walk them through. So that's part of onboarding as well.
How do you feel like that's going to scale?
Yeah, I mean, so far it's it's kind of same question for Uber or Lyft, any other kind of localized models. So when we tried to launch in Albuquerque, we basically took the best practices that we used in San Francisco. So we had a launch team. One person focused on kind of the demand side, and then another person focused on supply side. So hopefully, I mean, we want to perfect the model in San Francisco, in the Bay Area, and then try to replicate it in other areas. But our customers, who have used it and then they love the service, they constantly ask us, hey, when are you guys available in Chicago? We want to have our Chicago regional office use it.
Right.
Same thing for New York. So I think once we get to that, I mean, if we get to that, then we can replicate the model. We're just trying to figure out what the best practices are.
I can add yes on that as well, because we have a slightly different experience. From the more like product development side, we have kind of compartmentalized the different processes, and we're now on the full third product iteration since we launched last May, and what you see now looks very different from what we had then. But what we've done behind the scenes is like tweaking each of the processes in parallel, and come to some realization when it comes to the design and the client onboarding, the freelancer onboarding, and then we like kept and optimized them one at a time. It's kind of as anyone working with product development, it's like both a science and a bit of a gut feeling and trying and just like constantly iterating on it. And then the second part, where we're now, we're showing both of the clients and the freelancers a bit of tough love, in the sense that if you don't want us, we don't want you. So a lot of the freelance accounts like to start whining about like, why do I have to upload so much information? So like, well, sorry, okay, sometimes we don't even respond. We respond to it, but just like, we're not for everyone. And with the clients, we are turning down more than half of the jobs because they are just too low priced. And I think that's just like shows commitment to quality. And so the onboarding is part automatic, part hands-on, personal, as nail it and scale it. So that's kind of our experience. It's a mix of tools.
EJ, you had a question.
Yeah, thank you. Gentlemen, first, thank you for your presentation. I've really enjoyed hearing you articulate your business. Obviously, the clear trend is all of you have such a vertical focus. And my question is, have you contemplated a channel strategy? And if so, what is it? Or if not, why?
Yeah. Actually, from day one, mine was a channel strategy because I was very familiar with the executive suite model. And there's a whole myriad of businesses, from startups to pretty well-established companies in that space that are using those types of products.
Can I just, maybe you could just, I'm sorry to interrupt, but maybe just for the audience, just to say what you mean by a channel strategy
Sure.
with reference to these businesses.
In my perspective, I think each of you, as I've understood it, and forgive me, I mean no disrespect, you've articulated a very vertical and simple, and I don't mean anything, actually I think simple is great, focus to your business. Maybe focus is better. And I love the focus that each of you have. But the world doesn't operate in just pure isolation. So I'm just curious, have you thought about other mechanisms for revenue and collaboration and elements that grow your business, enhance your business via partners and other channels? That was my question.
So.
Oh, that's okay. I mean, I'll answer your first question, which was the channel strategy, which is something we employed from day one because we knew we knew how to access that type of business, those type of businesses through that channel. And I think that's a great way to sell personally, because you're sort of it's warm to you. And then the second question I think you had was have you thought about how to grow and could you work with other types of verticals or firms to grow? And that's where I think there's a little bit of choice. We're starting to get a lot of, we're starting to get approached quite a bit from traditional staffing firms as well. Like how are you, I mean, I was just telling Yong a story here where I just was at a dinner and I'm talking to the CEO of a 25-year-old staffing firm. He's been the CEO, founder, CEO of 25 years, and really had no clue what online staffing was or how you could do it, and wanted to know more and wanted to talk and see how he could learn to get into the game and that sort of thing. So I think there are opportunities with even traditional staffing firms in terms of leveraging what they have done to help you out and vice versa.
Anyone else on that question?
Want to go ahead? No, I'm going to go. I think in the beginning, I think I know kind of what you were talking about there. And the question, as it applies to me, would be if we thought about working with staffing companies, and I think it took me a long time to kind of come around to that. I think I want to work directly with employers, give them an incredible cut rate that they haven't experienced before. But seeing as that we're offering a 25% markup rate. That actually allows some staffing companies to work through us and bill their clients as they wish. So I think I came around to why turn away business. So we're testing the waters with that now, calling it alliance partnerships. We have been approached by a number of staffing companies who want to do that, so we're experimenting with it now.
I can add that, obviously Ignite, you're here, hopefully a bit, because I met with you in Jacksonville a couple of weeks ago. But I don't really see the big, simple channel partnership on that side. I'm sure we're going to do something together eventually. I more look at where is my target group hanging out, on the client side. And pretty much all the tools I'm using in my own daily work as a marketing professional, I kind of approach those. So the other day, 4 days ago, I was on the phone with the CMO of one of the big marketing automation companies, and they're building kind of a marketplace for the kind of talent we're offering, and they don't want to build it themselves. So that's kind of a immense partnership opportunity. They're bigger. I have a long client relationship. We'll be using their service for quite a while. Will it happen? I don't know, but it would be an awesome opportunity for us, and I'm pursuing all those similar opportunities because I know it's a very beneficial partnership, particularly since we're offering quality, so it's to strengthen their brand offering. I guess that was kind of what
Okay, cool. Yeah.
One thing I may add on the revenue, additional revenue strategy for us is that this was something that we didn't think about, but after customers have used us or used our service, they have actually reached out to Wonoloers saying, oh, these guys were fantastic, I actually want to hire them. And because they're not employees of us, we are not, there's no obligation. So customers are now using us as a testing platform for candidates. So they'll say, hey, Yong, we're looking for 5 people to help us on our fulfillment, and we're having such a hard time finding good quality candidates. So why don't we just do 5 different people every day, and then see who does a great job, and then we're gonna just hire them, make them offer. We said, great. And apparently they can do that with temp agencies because they're obligated or they have to pay exorbitant amount. We didn't know about that, so that is something that we are thinking about. Some companies, they don't even have a team, and then they don't want to go out and spend a lot of money building the team. So they'll just use Wonolo to have 4 person team, and then they'll just do the work, and then they'll test out how the operation would work, and they'll pivot along the way. So they're using us as a lot of the kind of testing platform. So we'll have to figure out how to monetize that, but for now, we'll just stick with the service fee now.
I've been seeing that up until 2013 that all of these platforms have basically been operating in isolation. And starting in 2013, you started to see platforms beginning to partner with other businesses. I know, for example, Elance partnered with and formed an ecosystem with testing and training types of functions, and so you start to see this services ecosystem formation occurring. You start to see engagement with more traditional staffing businesses and engagement with the channels of MSPs and VMS systems. We're sometimes in these meetups interested in this subject. So since 2013, that does seem to be something that has started to happen, and it's from my perspective, it's actually what it's showing is these platforms which looked like a certain thing for 10 years. Now it's becoming clear that there are all kinds of ways to leverage and use them and fit them into different business situations, and to design them for different business situations. So that seems to be something that's occurring across the board. I just have one quick question for the panel, because I know we're kind of getting late. I think the discussion has been really, really substantive and good. And you can answer. You don't have to answer the question, but you're all fairly young companies in a space that is now about maybe 14, 15 years old approximately. And we have one of the early innovators here with us today, EJ, who started a company called Skill Village in around 1999 or 1998. Yeah. And in any case, so the business, the space is about 15 years old. There are now probably over 150 companies in the business. You know, my question to you is, I mean, what is it like, you know, being a startup at this stage of the game? And what is the, you know, what do you see as positive? What do you see as challenging? If that's a fair question. So, I don't know, anyone who wants to answer.
I can be quick this time.
Okay.
I think the good thing is like it's space growing incredibly rapid. And one of the most famous analysts in the industry said in an event down in Redwood City a couple of weeks ago that he thinks off the record that the size of the market would be something like 50 billion.
There's only one analyst in the industry, so.
No names, it was off the record. Yeah, it was
at this point anyway.
So that's obviously the nice thing, and there's just like an abundance of opportunity. The downside is a crowded space. There are some really people who've been like pioneering the movement with Otis and Elas and our host here tonight, who obviously they have a first and second mover advantage, and so you have to be really smart if you're going to succeed in the market. So that's kind of how I see it.
Anyone else?
Okay, yep. I just say we're all in the right place at the right time. You know, the staffing industry is big and it's only getting bigger. The traditional way of doing things hasn't changed much in a long time, and that's happening right now. So I think I'm excited to be a part of that change. I think everyone in here.
Spontaneous high five.
Yeah, all right. We're all in position.
That was spontaneous. Is that spontaneous? We have an improv consultant in the room. So.
We actually practice.
Yeah. Jason. Yeah.
I mean, I think most of us in this room are focusing this are kind of in the right place at the right time. If you look at, I mean, I think it's probably clear that by now Uber's probably the fastest growing online labor company in the history of the world. And what it shows is that people just want work on their own terms in a flexible way. And so if you want to provide flexible work, I think, you know, now is a good time to get started doing it. And I think the obvious lesson is to be verticalized, and that makes sense. And yeah, the tax industry's been verticalized, but the rest of the world I think is up for grabs. So I mean, I think there's tons of opportunity, and we're really in kind of inning one, because the biggest players, Otis and Jens, are not verticalized. So there's lots of room.
And I guess an important point too that you suggested there and brought up earlier is that I mean, people want flexible work, but they don't want to be treated like cogs in a machine. There has to be, I mean, there has to be more than just having, you know, pellet.
Right. So basically,
served.
You know, we talked about this when you and I spoke earlier, but you know, we have a view as to how do you win, and so how do you build the best company in a category? And we believe that. So ultimately, the best company category, we think it's some combination of better, faster, cheaper, and ultimately, it's really hard to win on cheaper, and everybody gets fast. So ultimately, you want to win on better, and to have better quality service, I think you need to have better workers. To have better workers, I think you need to make sure that you treat the ones you have really well, and make sure that they want to stick around with you. And so ultimately, I think that our job goes from serving customers to how do we build careers for freelancers that they really enjoy. And the ones of us that do that the best, I think, are going to do the best.
Interesting. What about interesting times? So
yeah, I'll echo and reiterate that you know, there's tremendous opportunity. I think there will eventually be, you know, if we look at say the more mature players that have been around for 15 years as the big redwoods and us as kind of seedlings, that a lot of these seedlings there's going to be a lot of M&A activity, I think, down the road too, especially as this growth, because you know, there'll have to be at some point. But I think before that, there'll be a lot of opportunity before that happens.
Yeah, I guess you could get to a point in the industry where there are some mature players that are not simply what they started out to be, but they've developed a competency to run, you know, broadly speaking, online work platform types of businesses and could consolidate acquire and so forth. Yeah.
I guess one of the biggest challenges that we have when we talk to customers or potential customers is that they often ask, "Hey, Yong, we've never met these Wonoloers, never seen their resumes, and never had interviews. You're telling me that someone's going to come in and then do the job for me." So there's a lot of a trust question, and once they experience it, they become a believer. So there's a little bit of traditional thought that needs to be changed, and usually whenever they ask us questions, the response that we give to them is that you've used Uber. When a taxi cab comes to you, do you ask them for resume or do you ask them for interviews? You don't. You trust them that it will get you from point A to point B safely, and they are qualified to do the job. So that is kind of one of the hurdles that I think we are facing to kind of change their mentality, the way they think about filling the job, finding the right talents. And I think given all the work that all the startup guys are doing, all the panelists that are here doing, I think collectively as a whole we're trying to change the way it's been done before. So I think we're trying to kind of contribute to that change in mind and how companies and then people find workers and the workers get matched for jobs.
Great. Are there any burning questions for this great panel that we've assembled here today? Now's the time. Okay, we'll go with EJ first. Yeah.
I'm just curious. I know we've been talking about your business model, but I'm just curious. What is your tech stack? If you're Yong, you seem to be native mobile app largely, but if you could tell us, because there's a technology behind it, so that's the geek in me. That's good.
Yes, I mean right now we are only available on iOS platform, and we use Ruby. So we are very, very focused on iOS, perfecting it. We have tons of potential Wonoloers or want to be Wonoloers who only have Android, and they ask us, when it's going to be available on Android platform. But we think that there are still plenty of iOS users out there, so we want to kind of perfect the model until we launch that. And then for the requester side, we have both the iOS app and the kind of web-based interface as well.
Mike? Yeah.
You touched a little bit on the social side, but it seems to me one of the things that hasn't been talked too much about right now is when you think about getting a trusted relationship with, who do you know that's good at this, right? We often do that, right? We ask, well, who do you know? And if it's somebody you trust, that particularly in the space that you're trying to hire somebody, you put a lot of weight on that. And so I'm curious as to the social, one of you guys is Coworks, I believe, has got some social stuff going on, but I haven't heard too much of that in terms of how do you collapse the curation process, and is there a way to invoke social in a much bigger way that's happening right now, so that you've got lots of small things happening that end up accumulating a huge network effect. So just curious whether anybody's put much thought into that.
We make all our jobs shareable on all the social networks. An employer can even tie in their company social pages, and when they post a job, it can automatically go out on those. So we try to make everything really spreadable in that way.
We started by making it spreadable and putting like the social gloss on top of it, but we found that it requires some kind of critical mass, and also it can't be as like gloss. It needs to have some profound user impact in a positive way. So right now we have much more, the system is much more social on the backside than it is on the front side. We kind of focus on some core processes like posting the jobs, the matchmaking process, kind of crunching them and optimizing them. Before we go into the social, I think people are kind of overburdened with share to your network and stuff like that. To us, that's become part of our customer advocacy program, part of my Swedish, rather than a separate standalone feature. So I think first it was easy, and then it became even easier, and now I think it's becoming a bit more difficult again because it's so much noise in the marketplace.
To give kind of a maybe devil's advocate view, I think social signals, they're always of some value. I think that they're of less importance in some of these areas than maybe other industries because we have more direct signals of work quality that trump it. So in the case of my company, we do stuff that's, I'm not going to quite say commodity, but closer to commodity than super high end. And so we have people that assess the accuracy of the work. So if you close caption a video or translate a document, we see is it good or not. And that is really, really important. Who your friends are is like pretty, we don't care by comparison. In the medium term, we consider that if we have 100 applicants and a bunch of our best people said that you're good, we put you at the top of the queue, but we look at your work. And so, I think it all depends on the kind of work, but most people here, somebody's looking at the actual work itself, and I just think that that's going to trump social signals, at least once you're already in the system. But maybe for getting in, maybe it's 5%.
One last quick question from Jesse, because I know we're kind of out of time. And
I was just curious back to the technology question. Like in your case, you said you're doing iOS, but would you say that the majority of your users probably have Android devices? Have you tested that?
No, so if I look at our users, we have a lot of college students who cannot find part-time job because they have class schedules. So they only pick up Wonolo jobs when they're not in school. We have a lot of part-time workers who work Mondays, Wednesdays, Fridays, and they want to work additional hours, but no one would hire them just for Tuesdays and Thursdays. So they would pick up Wonolo jobs on Tuesdays and Thursdays. We have a lot of stay-home parents who have free time after they drop off kids and then between they pick up kids. So during those 6 hours, they would pick up Wonolo jobs. So we have Wonoloers who went to Ivy League to high school grads. 19 years old to 65 years old. A lot of them are iPhone users. Sure, there are tons, a lot of Android users as well. But even just tapping into iPhone user market, I think we right now, we're filling all the job needs, so we think that that's plenty of opportunity for us.
Okay, well, we've probably overstayed our welcome here at Sigma West, and I want to thank Sigma West for being such wonderful hosts tonight, and I want to thank this excellent panel for their excellent contributions and information today, which I think was amazing from my standpoint, and I hope you all enjoyed it and found it valuable. Let's thank our panel.
Thanks. Thank you,
guys.